Recovery Daily Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today's topic is I wanted to talk about, let's see how I can summarize it. I wanted to talk about what was it that kept me coming back in my sobriety program? What was it that got me to interested? Because there had to be some sort of gigantic magnetic pull to get me to keep coming back to sobriety meetings. And so, what was it that did it? What was it that then kept me interested? And eventually, I wanted to talk a little bit about what that process looked like for me, because I feel like the more we talk about it, the people that have gotten sober, the more we try to articulate what that experience was like, then it might resonate. And I'm telling you, that's exactly how it started for me. That is the thing that started the entire journey, was that something resonated, that something made me say, that's me. Oh my gosh, I do that too. I think that too. I did that too. And then over time, continuing to hear my story being told out of somebody else's mouth, kept me coming back. And that is the solution for me in sobriety, is to keep coming back. And so today I go to 2 meetings every morning, and I was just talking to another stroke survivor who it's a interesting how the world unfolds in front of me. But I've been talking to this woman who is in one of my stroke survivor support groups, and it's the only person that I talk to outside of the meeting. And it turns out that she is also a recovering alcoholic. And I was like, I mean, only in sobriety do I get to have that happen to me. Do I get to have the planets align, like the universe is talking to me, that kind of stuff. It's just cool. It's cool because we can help each other in another way, in an additional layer of not just stroke recovery, but how does sobriety interact with my stroke recovery? And that's really what my podcast is trying to communicate. If somebody listens that doesn't have or hasn't had a stroke, it is an example of practicing these principles in all of my affairs. If somebody has had a stroke and is an alcoholic, it is hopefully a powerful message for people who have lived through these 2 massive events that take so many people from the world. So that's a lot. That's loaded. We'll see where it goes. But one thing that the literature that we read this morning was called A Vision for You. And in this section, one of the things that it says is getting to the point when drinking in active alcoholism where you can't imagine your life with alcohol. Like, you're not going to be able to live if you keep drinking, but yet you're unable to picture your life without alcohol. And I remember getting to that point. I remember living right in between that tension between the 2 impossible visions for my life. I can't live over here where this chaos continues, this addiction continues. Yet I can't live over here because I need alcohol to survive. Like that was what I thought. It's amazing what I was telling myself, what I truly, truly believed. What I had no idea of was that side where I wasn't drinking was where the best of my life lied ahead, and that's what I heard in the reading this morning. It is baffling. It is baffling what addiction does to our minds and our bodies. And the literature talks about how no amount of willpower will set me free from my addiction. And I thought for a really long time that willpower was what these people who were quitting, that's what they had. And I just didn't have it. I mean, I remember sitting in the meetings just being like, these people don't understand. Like, they're saying that they're alcoholics, but they don't understand how bad it really is for me. There's no way. There's no way that I can do this. Like, sure, they can do it, but it's different for me. That's what I was thinking. I felt like I knew better, yet, like, knew myself better than they know themselves, or something like that. That they just seem to have a willpower that I don't have. I couldn't quit smoking. I couldn't quit drinking. It wasn't in me. I just couldn't do those things. I never could. I never could. If I wanted a piece of candy, I couldn't not eat the candy. I would have explained that in any situation. If I wanted to talk to a boy, I couldn't not talk to the boy. It's just it wasn't in my nature to be able to resist, to have that willpower. Um, and yet that's not what it took. If it would have taken willpower to get to where I am today, I wouldn't be here. That's not what was happening. And that's what is so baffling to me, because it's happened to me and I don't really even know how to explain it. I reached that point of powerlessness, and that's what step one is. I reached that point of unmanageability where I'm like, well, I can't live with it and I can't live without it. That was unmanageability. I can't live with the alcohol anymore. So what do I do? And somehow I got pointed in the direction of AA. AA was not something that was a part of my life. Like, nobody I knew went to AA. The first time, like, I had heard of AA in, like, on TV shows and stuff, and it's always, they're making fun. And because it didn't feel like a realistic. I thought it was a joke. I thought, like, AA, when they're like talking about, hi, I'm Rachel and I'm an alcoholic, and everybody's like, hi, Rachel. I didn't know it was really like that, but it is really like that. But it seems bizarre when you see it from the outside, and then when you're in it, when you're in that point of powerlessness, and you're living the baffling nature of addiction. It's not so strange to walk in a room. It takes a while to say, I'm an alcoholic, but I remember the first time I said it, it felt very weird falling out of my mouth, and it didn't feel right, but it was right. I was an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic. And it took repeating that over and over every time I introduced myself to share to get comfortable saying it. And I reached the point where sometimes I was in a meeting in early sobriety and I would say, I'm Rachel, I'm an alcoholic, and that's really all I need to remember today. And that was my share, that I just needed to say it out loud. That's what I would share sometimes. I'm Rachel, I'm an alcoholic, and I just needed to say that out loud today. And it helped me to believe it. It helped me to get comfortable with it, to start being able to live in my own skin like that. So then, and that was after actually starting to hear somebody, well, I guess it was first where I had to say I'm an alcoholic, and it didn't feel right. But then I started to hear people say things that I'm like, yeah, I thought that too. I mean, I didn't say anything. I just sat there in a daze, but yet every once in a while something would, go into my system and process, and I'm like, wait, they're just like me. I'm just like them. Like I saw that there was something happening there. There was a connection that was building. And so I started to see myself in other people's stories. And when that happened, that broke that isolation. And I stopped feeling so unique. And it is important in my life that I don't feel unique to an extent, to a large extent. I don't want to feel unique. I feel like there are some times in our life that we want to be unique. We want to be. It depends on your personality, but I did have a tendency to want to be unique in the area of, like, I wanted to be an actress, I wanted to be pretty, I wanted to be funny, I wanted to be athletic, and I wanted to be uniquely great at it. But the only thing that I was uniquely great at, from in my family and amongst my friends, was drinking. And I was really, really good at it. And I went to college being uniquely good at it too. Um, but over time, after I've been in sobriety and I start seeing people come into the program, there's people that come into the program that I know, that I've known from childhood. And I'm like, I wasn't uniquely good at it. They were uniquely good at it too. It's interesting. Side note, kind of side note, there was this girl that I was friends with and growing up. And one of my memories from one of my disastrous drinking night memories was from going to a party at her house when I was a freshman in high school. And it was terrible. My brother was there. My brother was mad at me because I drank so much I couldn't drive home and all of these things. And that was just the beginning of my brother being mad at me when I would drink. Um, but it turns out that that girl who had that party, she is one of us too. And I didn't know that until like 6 months ago. She came out in social media and said that she was celebrating a certain amount of time. I can't remember how long. And I was like, I mean, my jaw dropped to the floor. It's weird that because I continue to think, I guess I continue to like default back to being unique, and I'm not. And it's just, there are people that are alcoholics that you have no idea. You would never imagine that that person, because we do a good job looking like we've got our shit together, but we don't. we're far from don't, our shit is falling apart. So I thought that was interesting because this is one of those people that I was probably jealous of growing up because she was beautiful. She's always been beautiful. She still is. And I don't know, just seemed to be popular and all of these things. And yet it's just alcoholism doesn't discriminate and it happens to a lot of people you wouldn't expect. You wouldn't expect that their lives are falling apart just like yours, but yet there they are. So it's always interesting to run across other alcoholics. There's some people that I worked with that I had no idea until I left my job and I started recovering out loud and having my podcast, and then they started reaching out to me. And they said, "Oh, I didn't know you were a friend of Bill's." And I was like, "I didn't know you were either." So it's cool actually to have that kind of connection. It's not like I wish alcoholism on anybody else. I would never want somebody to have to suffer the way that I did. But when you run across somebody who is an alcoholic, there is this automatic connection. Like they get it. They get it. They get life on a in a different way than someone who's not an alcoholic. Um, so, one of the other things that I thought about this morning as we were reading the literature was I started thinking about people, and I feel like I may have talked about this before, but there are a lot of people in sobriety that I've run across who like are newcomers and they talk about their struggle with quitting and they're like, we talk about steps 2 and 3 where we're talking about a higher power and they'll say, "Oh, well, I pray all day long. I pray all day long. Take this craving away from me," and stuff like that. And I never really knew how to respond to that because I never prayed all day long. Um, Instead, I was reading literature all day long. I was going to meetings all day long. And um, I was the opposite, where I was trying to develop a relationship or faith that worked for me. So I was doing the suggestions from the program and not relying a lot on prayer. And what I think about today as being 9 years in sobriety, I think about I wrote down this morning, God alone does not fix our addiction. I wrote that down. And then I immediately disagreed with myself. I thought, okay, Rachel, if you're doing this faith thing, I always start out with that. If you're doing this faith thing, if you're all in, then if God is in everything, which is what my concept of God is in everything, then recovery is in partnership with God, and it takes both the faith and the action to stay sober. So for some people, because not everybody does AA, prayer alone can sustain them. Some people it does work. A lot of people a lot of people think, yeah, that it should work, but yet the craving is still there. And that's where the action needs to come in. I believe that like I cannot rely solely on prayer. And that's why prayer and meditation is a part of step 11, and the steps touch on your concept of God, your higher power throughout them, but they're mixed into action. And it's that action along with prayer that keeps me sober. Working the steps, going to meetings, and being of service make my access to God's present more tangible in my life. I can't just broadcast my prayers, right? I mean, I can't just get on my knees before bed every night and broadcast my prayers. I need to engage with what it is that I'm praying for. I can't just ask for things and expect them to be blessed upon me. Life takes work. That is what I've learned. That's what I've learned in recovery. And when over time, Autumn keeps like moaning. Um, sorry. So over time, as I keep going to meetings and I get that presence of God being more tangible in my life, it comes out in the gifts, like the ongoing gifts. And it's every day. Every day, there are so many gifts. And I think I talked about it yesterday. Autumn, why are you moaning? Why are you moaning? It's distracting, Autumn. It's distracting. Okay. She's looking at me like just finish up already. So, um the ongoing gifts are being received through that tangible presence. Like I feel it's just because I'm noticing. I'm praying, I'm doing the action, and then I'm noticing the gifts because I have a daily practice and it's become habit for me. It's not like sobriety was this one-time miracle. It's something that when I heard people sharing my story was coming out of their mouths, that kept me coming back. And then the gifts that kept emerging from me coming back were like building a network. That took a long time for me to build a network that I really like, people that I really get along with, people that that I feel comfortable with. I think it wasn't like there was anybody that didn't like or anything. It was like I didn't mix in right away. So I had to go to lots of different meetings, and it was probably 3 years into sobriety when I finally found like my home where I really, really felt like this is my place. And it turned out that it was back in Leesburg where I grew up, where I spent the majority of my life in Leesburg. That's just where I feel comfortable. The people seem like-minded. The people have, I don't know. I guess it's just, you know how if you end up going to a good example, when we lived out in Charlestown, my husband now, it was boyfriend at the time, we went to a neighboring town next to Charlestown and we went out to dinner and we're sitting at this table for like a half an hour before we even get our drinks. And we're sitting like upstairs. The restaurant had like an upstairs and a downstairs in this old town. And we were sitting in the window of the upstairs part. And it was beautiful. It was really quaint. And it was like low lights. It was a date. It was a classic date. And we sat there for a half an hour before we got our drinks. And I think, I don't remember if I was drinking. I don't know if I stopped drinking then. I think I wasn't drinking anymore at that point. But we started talking. We were starting to get frustrated that we weren't getting our service. And then he said, life is slower here, and you have to adjust to the speed of life here. And once we were able to do that, we weren't frustrated anymore. Like the food came when it came, the drinks came when they came. And that's really what it was. It wasn't bad service. I mean, it was still frustrating, but things were slower. I had to slow down in order to feel comfortable there. And that's why in Leesburg, it goes at my pace. The people in Leesburg live at my pace. So I needed to go back home in order to feel that those relationships and that community feeling and have like that peace of mind when I'm sitting with all of these people. And I don't have to know them, they can be strangers. But when I'm sitting in a meeting in Leesburg and Loudoun County, I am home. So there is that that feeling of being home that kept me coming back. But that took work, that took time, that I had to keep coming back. And that is one of the sentences that we say at the very end of meetings, keep coming back. And it's so important. And sometimes on Zoom, I've recognized that we get lazy and we don't say it. We just say the Lord's Prayer and then we're done. And then we're like, all right, holla, see ya. And I have tried to bring it back and be like, keep coming back. It works if you work it, because that is the key. That is the key. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. And to me, it doesn't take just prayer, it takes work. And out of that work comes an abundance of gifts. There is a new level of clarity. There is connection. There is gratitude, gratitude, gratitude that just keeps multiplying as long as I keep showing up. And it's not something that we graduate for. Like, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. And I feel a level of joy in that. I feel comfort in that, knowing that I don't have to stop. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I probably have. I feel like I've mentioned everything before, but when I graduated from college, I didn't want to graduate because I felt like the ability to learn, like learning was over. I didn't want to stop learning. And I thought, oh, I just have to go start a job. Like, that's it. I don't learn anymore. And that was so ignorant of me to think that the learning part of my life was done. But I still didn't want to necessarily leave that comfortable space where I got to just have no cares in the world. I don't know that many people want to go out. Maybe they do go out and start jobs and be responsible and have to pay bills and everything. I did not want to do that. Um, but in the beginning, I felt like in the beginning of sobriety, I felt like, oh, I have to, like, I couldn't stop thinking about the rest of my life, that I had to do this for the rest of my life. And today, I'm happy that I get to do this for the rest of my life, that I have a place to go for the rest of my life. I have a home for the rest of my life. Um, so today I don't need to picture life with or without alcohol. I simply am living. I'm doing the work. I feel freedom to let life take me where it needs to take me, but yet know that there are times that I need to surrender and there are times that I need to dig in and participate um, in order to continue to grow, to continue to learn. The learning is never over for me, and I truly believe it's taken me some time now, but in stroke recovery, I can honestly say that I believe that life is going to continue to get better. And the best of my life is still ahead of me. It's been challenging to see that. And probably there are days that I'm like, I don't want to live this way. But that's few and far between. I feel very comfortable where I'm at now. It's taken a lot of acceptance, and the way that I've gotten to that point of acceptance is a direct result of my sobriety program. The same exact process I followed in sobriety is what I apply to my stroke recovery. And thank God I got sober before I had a stroke. I will be forever grateful that my life happened in the order that it did so that I'm still here, still pushing forward and up and happy to share that experience with you. So, thank you for listening, and I will talk to you tomorrow.